You're watching NEWS.am's live coverage of WCIT 2019. Mr. Jamie Metzl is our guest at the moment. Thank you for coming here, Mr. Metzl. Let me ask you a few questions. So genetic engineering is already a reality now, so we can read and even hack our DNA. So how does it change our life and the world around us?
The genetic revolution is already here. And over the course of our lives, it's going to touch us in ever deeper ways. And the first application is in our healthcare. So we're going to see a transition from our current healthcare system based on population averages, where if you have a disease, for example, you're treated based on the disease, to a world of precision medicine, which is personalized for each person. To understand, for your doctor to understand who you are, they're going to need a lot of different information, and especially your sequence genome. So we are very quickly going to live in a world where everyone has had their genome sequence, and that's how you get your medical care tailored just for you. But once we have that information, and we have millions and then billions of people whose genomes have been sequenced, and we have access to the information about how those genes are expressed, then we'll use big data algorithms to increasingly crack the code of complex genetics and biology. And that will very quickly move us to a world of predictive health. So it won't be that you go to the doctor when you get sick. It will be you will know from birth what is your risk for various bad things and your opportunity for various good things. And so we'll live in a much more preventative world where you try to avoid bad things and enhance good things. The second area is going to be with direct-to-consumer genetics. Many people have sent in their mouth swabs to companies like 23andMe. But the information that we're going to get back is going to be much broader than healthcare, like right now it is for Ancestry. But we're going to have very actionable information about things that we may be good at, that we've never tried, like abstract mathematics or sprinting. And we're going to be able to apply that also to our children. So this is going to change the way we think about human potential and parenting. And then the third, and maybe the most profound application, will be in assisted reproduction. So more and more of us are going to have children not through sex, but using in vitro fertilization and embryo screening to select against bad outcomes like deadly diseases and for desired outcomes. And then beyond that, we've already entered the era of gene editing, of using precision gene editing tools like CRISPR to edit the genomes of pre-implanted embryos. It was very unethical when the scientists who participated in these first two CRISPR babies who were born in China last year, and the world is not ready for genome-edited babies, but that is coming. And now is the time when we need to really think about all of the ethical issues. We need to engage and empower the public so that we can have an inclusive conversation about how we can best move forward together.
What if these technologies are used not only to make people healthier, but to make, designer children? Is there a risk that certain traits might disappear, like certain colors of eyes, for example?
Yeah. So every technology can be used for good or for evil. Even the plow. The plow was great, but using the plow in agriculture, we wiped out the forests and destroyed the planet. So every technology has an upside and a downside. And we need to be telling the story of the upside and the downside. So these technologies will certainly help us cure diseases. And they certainly will help us live in outer space or maybe on other planets because our biology is not optimized for that. But these technologies could also be used in very nefarious and dangerous ways, because if you're going through IVF and you have 10 embryos to choose from, and one of them will have a deadly genetic disease, and you don't choose that embryo, that is a form of eugenics. And we need to be mindful of that. These are really tricky ethical issues, and we have to recognize that ethics isn't an afterthought. ethics is at the center and must be at the center of every component of this process.
I guess genetic engineering is one of the central topics of your new book, Hacking Darwin. What was the main message you wanted to deliver through this book?
So the main message is that we humans now have increasingly active control over the levers of biology. Biology is made of code, and that code is increasingly readable and writable and hackable. And this incredible power comes with just a tremendous responsibility. We now have the powers that we have attributed in the past to the gods, but we have to make sure we have the wisdom to use those powers wisely.
By the way, your new book hasn't been translated into Armenian yet, and that's a shame.
It's a terrible shame. It's being translated into so many different languages, but not Armenian. I've been meeting with members of your government, trying to encourage them to come out with an Armenian language version of Hacking Darwin, because I've already committed to return to Armenia next year to give a keynote at the Global Innovation, the FAST Global Innovation Forum 2020. I would love it if we could do the launch of the Armenian language version of Hacking Darwin at that time and have a nationwide dialogue. I have questions, conversation questions at the end of the book. I'd love for high school students, for example, all across Armenia to read the book and discuss with each other how we want to handle these tricky issues. And I've even told the ministry, I didn't tell my publisher, but that we would give the rights for free, so they wouldn't have to make an initial payment, because I really would love for there to be an Armenian language version.
That would be so great.
I would love it, and I know that most everybody in Armenia listens to your program, so for those of you who are listening, please, I'd appreciate your help. And Armenia, last year when I was here, I went to the Manuscript Museum. It just blew my mind, the level of erudition, of learning, of commitment to knowledge in this country is really among the best in the world. And for these technologies that are going to change our lives, there's no reason that Armenia can't also lead. Can't lead in the science, can't lead in the applications, and also can't lead in the public dialogue about how these technologies can best be applied.
If genetic engineering continues to evolve and widely used, do you think there could be a risk that it could divide humanity into two parts?
There is a real possibility that genetic technologies could be used to divide us into genetic haves and have-nots. That's why we need to be working now to prevent that outcome. But there are people now who are already in our world genetic haves and have-nots, because for all of us who had proper nutrition and safety and security, we are born with a range of possibilities. The average woman in Central African Republic today who is in a war zone and malnourished is having a child who is already brain damaged because of that malnourishment. And so the difference between us and our kids and the person who was born in this terrible poverty and conflict and malnourishment, that's maybe the same difference as between us non-genetically enhanced humans and people who may be genetically enhanced in the future for high IQ. So if we have a problem with this difference, it's great to have a problem in our imaginary future, but let's solve these problems in the real world today so that when we get to the future, we'll know who we are and what we stand for, and it will be unthinkable to divide us into these two different groups.
You've also written a book about Cambodian genocide. Do you know anything about Armenian genocide?
I know a great deal about the Armenian genocide. I've studied it, and when I was doing a lot of speaking earlier in my career on the Cambodia genocide, I participated in many human rights conferences organized by Armenian community. So I have a tremendous sympathy. As a matter of fact, I've written 2 novels, Genesis Code and Eternal Sonata, both of which I'd also love to be translated into Armenian. But the main character, the hero of both of those books, is an Armenian American from Glendale named Dikran Azadian.
Whoa.
Yeah.
that's one more reason to translate these books into Armenian.
That's my view. I feel like this is my second trip. I'm coming back next year for my third trip. But I was speaking with my friends at FAST, and I feel like at some point, I hope I will earn the title of honorary Armenian.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So Mr. Jamie Metzl was with us. He's an author of several really popular books and technology futurist. Thank you so much.
Really my pleasure.